All right. Just going to wait a few seconds now that I'm live just to make sure it doesn't restart. Because that's been happening a lot lately. I'll talk for a few seconds and then it's suddenly going to restart the whole thing. And I'll have to say everything a second time. And it's not fun when that happens. Okay, we're past the 30-second mark. Does that mean we're good? Hope so. Okay. I'm gonna try this. Hey everybody, AC here, and welcome back to another episode of Danny Phantom Vlogs Revisit. This time, we're talking about Maternal Instinct. This is the 16th episode of the season. And in this episode, we see that Danny and his mom used to be really close, but they're not really that close anymore. Danny's mom, Maddie, ends up getting an invitation to a museum in Florida, and she decides she wants to go with Danny, and the two of them end up leaving, and the plane they ride is actually being flown by a evil ghost that turns out to work for Vlad. Turns out there was no museum. There was no science museum. It was all just a big hoax to get him and his mom to his villa in the countryside. And so he tries to flirt with Maddie, and Maddie storms out. Maddie storms out with Danny, and then in the middle of the night, Danny is kidnapped, brought back to Vlad, with the help of all of Vlad's animal ghost servants, and Vlad uses a small machine device to short circuit Danny's powers for 3 hours. So now he has to rely on his mom to protect. Him from all these ghost animals. And Maddie is wearing this special belt that basically electrocutes any ghost that comes into contact with her. And she ends up putting that belt on Danny. So now, when he gets his powers back, he's going to be electrocuted. He's going to get electrocuted. So he's got to figure out a way to get out of that belt, and he's got to figure out a way to defeat Vlad and get him and his mom home. Meanwhile, plot B is that back at the house, a bunch of these ghost animals are attacking the Fenton house, and Jazz ends up learning from Jack how to be a ghost hunter, and they end up bonding over it. And yeah, so then back with Danny and Maddie, they end up going back to Vlad. And Maddie pretends to flirt with Vlad a little bit, and then claims that she's gonna go freshen up, and leaves to go try to find a phone. And Danny ends up changing the time on the clock to make Vlad think that he's still powerless for 15 more minutes. And manages to get the belt off. He manages to get the belt off. And tricks Vlad. Manages to trick Vlad into thinking that he actually wants to be his student. And puts the belt on. He puts the belt on Vlad. Right as Danny ends up getting his powers back. And so he ends up beating Vlad. He manages to beat Vlad for the first time. Well, he doesn't really beat Vlad per se. He cannot fully defeat Vlad without the help of that belt, which is severely weakening Vlad. But then he ends up turning all of Vlad's little ghost ghost animals on him, and then short circuits Vlad's powers. Vlad goes running off, and all the ghost animals go chasing after him. And then Danny and his mom end up taking Vlad's helicopter back home. And both kids end up bonding with their parents. And it's a nice little plot. Both the A plot and B plot in the episode are really good. They're both very enjoyable. And I do like this episode. This is a really fun episode. I remember not liking this episode very much as a kid. I didn't really think much of it. I thought it was just an okay episode, but as an adult, I like this episode a lot more. I see the bond that Danny and I see the broken bond that Maddie is trying to repair with Danny, and I see the bond that is forming between Jazz and Jack, and it makes me think about some of the family and friend, some of the bonds between family and friends that I have, that I really appreciate. And so seeing all of them form these bonds it's really nice to me, and it just kind of like it speaks to me. And so is it worth giving it an A- or B+? You know what? Yeah, I'm gonna give it an A-. I'm gonna go with my initial gut reaction and give this an A-. I think this is the first A- in the show. Because didn't I give the Ember's first appearance an A? So I think this is our first A-. But so A-. That's going to do it for this episode. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Take care, everyone.